Namaste, DDs. My name is Sherry Sutton, and I am your business growth guide. So, one of the things I hear the most from entrepreneurs is, why is it taking so long to grow my business? It's a very common feeling among entrepreneurs. We often start our businesses thinking like, hey, I'll just open up a store and everybody's going to come and it's going to be great. And sometimes that's true, but often it takes a lot longer to build up that brand loyalty, get people really engaged with our overall business, right? Know that we're there. I think that there's been a real disservice in the last few years to entrepreneurs. There's kind of this mystique of the overnight success, right? Like all you have to do is create a course and you'll make, $100,000 of passive revenue without having to do anything. And I mean, that sometimes that's true if you have an existing audience, but if you don't have an existing audience, it's probably going to take a little bit longer than you think. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking today about that, as well as give you some tips on how to speed up that process. So I'm going to put my slides up here. I'm going to go back to the first slide. All right. Which is better, this one or this one? No, that's probably too small. That might be all right. All right. So the question is, why does it take so long to grow my business? So 10% of all businesses fail within the first year. That is a scary thought, especially if you've invested, your entire life savings into one of these businesses, right? Gosh, you don't want to be one of those 10%. And 70% of startups fail within the first 5 years. That is a huge number. Again, not a number that you want to be part of. So I want to tell you why a lot of those businesses fail. And this is all according to various sources, but primarily the Small Business Association. So that really there's 3 reasons why. There's a lot of reasons, but the 3 main ones that I wanted to focus on are these 3. The first one is running out of money. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit in a minute, of how much you should be prepared for when building your business. We tend to think, we tend to spend all of our money building the business, right? So I'll think about like if you're building a gym, right? You spend all your money getting the space, getting all the stuff inside, buying the software, and then you're like, okay, revenue will start coming in right away, but it often takes some time. I'm going to talk about kind of a rule of thumb around how long it takes here in a minute. But the number one challenge is that people run out of money because they don't have the capital to run the business for a while before it ends up being profitable. I want to share with you here in a minute a couple ways where you can make sure you're not overspending your money. So we'll talk about that in a minute. The second thing is overestimating the market demand. And I'm going to talk about a way to solve this here in a minute. But one of the things that I see a lot with entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneurs who've been in their business for a while, and they're going to maybe offer a new product offering or something like that, or they worked in corporate America and now they're going to move to working on their own. What I find with them is they tend to go, you know what, this is really needed in the marketplace, so I'm going to go offer it. But often it's something that the audience doesn't know they need. Remember that the most powerful products are the ones that people know they need, and they know they need right now, and they know they need bad enough that they're willing to separate from their time and their money. And that is often a very clear distinction, right? How am I in pain? I am so much pain that I'm going to go out of my way to find this product, to find you, and to then separate from my time and my money. Often if we're giving it a product that people don't know they need yet, even though they need it, they're not going to be ready to buy it, right? And so there's often, you have to kind of think about that. And again, I'm going to talk about ways to mitigate that here in a minute. But the third reason why so many startups fail, again, 70% within the first 5 years, is a lack of marketing that converts. And I don't mean that like, because often we'll do marketing, but it's not necessarily converting, right? It's not marketing that's either in the right places at the right time, in front of the right people with the right message. And that is a key component of this, right? We see a lot of people who spend, this happens with my clients all the time. They'll come to me and they'll say, I spent $10,000 with an ad agency, or doing social ads, and I didn't get a single client from them. And I'm like, well, what did your ad say? What were you offering? What did your ad say? What was your key message? Who are you targeting? And they sometimes they don't even have any idea. So really making sure that the marketing that you're doing converts, and not just doing any kind of marketing, but that it's real strategic. And the more strategic you are, the more customers you're going to get for the least amount of money. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. So creating a business, as I said, is always going to take longer and cost more than you expected. This makes me a very unpopular coach, and I'm okay with that. I think that there are a lot of coaches out there who are like, spend an hour a day and make $200,000. And, while that can be true for some businesses, especially if you have an existing audience and you're offering them a product, but generally, it's always going to take a little bit more time and cost you a little bit more than you expected. This is true of home renovations, and it's true in your business. And so just something to think about. Again, I know that this makes me a total bummer, but I would rather be the coach who comes to you and says the real thing, right? Here's the real nut of how you create your business. Here's really how you do it. Here's really the way to approach it. And if you are super strategic with it, you will be able to grow faster than your competition. But it always takes longer than we think, right? And it just is what it is, right? It's like losing weight. It always takes longer than we want. Okay. So according to experts, building a successful brand can take 2 to 5 years for small businesses. For larger businesses, think about somebody like Amazon. Amazon's been around since, the early 90s, right? And now they're just becoming really ubiquitous. And that's been happening for the last little bit, but they've been around for a really long time, right? Nike, Coca-Cola, these are brands that have been around for decades, right? So building a brand, getting known in your industry is always going to take a couple of years and some time. That doesn't mean you can't start driving revenue right away. And that's why creating a really strategic marketing plan that helps you to get revenue from a small targeted audience at first, that then allows you to grow to larger audiences. So now, kind of anybody who is appropriate to buy from you will know of you over the couple years. And again, that's what a strategic business and marketing plan will do for you. But it can take a while, right? It can take a little bit of time to grow. Again, doesn't mean you can't create revenue, but it does take a couple of years. So here's the old adage from, and all of us who are like nerdy and got MBAs. So this is what they taught us when I got my MBA. It is year 1, you're going to lose money. Year 2, you break even. Year 3, you make back the money that you lost in year 1. And year 4, you start getting to fill your pockets with some money. So this is just something to think about as you're thinking about, okay, how long is it going to take me to grow my business? This is something that, all startups, when you're looking at, venture capital or, and I've worked with a lot of startups, lots that completely failed, right? And I've also worked at big Fortune 500 companies. And, they think about this every time, right? The first year, you're going to lose money. The second year, if you're lucky, you break even. The third year, you're just hopefully making enough money to pay back or, refund whatever savings account you used to fund yourself on year 1. And year 4, you start to make a profit, right? This is the formula that they use, for a lot of businesses. Sometimes it's even longer, right? I've seen business plans where it's like, we're not going to make a profit for 5 years, but we're cool with that, right? Because the profit after that is going to be so significant. So really understanding the numbers of your business and how much is it going to cost me to invest, and being really strategic on what is a real estimate for my growth, a conservative estimate, knowing, these 3 stages, right? I'm going to lose money for a while. I'm going to break even at some point, and then I'm going to make money later. And so knowing that there are 3 distinct stages, and that's okay. Totally, totally normal. You just have to make sure you're funded to cover yourself during those, that first amount of time. All right. Now let's get to the nitty gritty. I have a couple of tips for how to speed up this process, right? Because that's what we all want to hear. How do I grow my business faster? All right. So the first thing is making sure you have enough startup capital. And we talked about that. And you're like, yeah, okay, I get it. Like, I don't have, a lot of us are like, I don't have it. It's too late. I've started my business and I'm going down the road. One of the main reasons for this is, one, you have to be able to pay your bills, but also having the peace of mind of understanding, like, hey, I can enter my business and be calm and strategic about exactly what I'm going to do. Because if we're coming to our business from a place of lack, from a place of fear, from a place of hustle, right? I have to get this done now. I have to get money right now. I have to get this. I have to meet this goal this quarter in order to get to this place. If you're coming at your business from that kind of a mindset, it's going to be very difficult for you to be successful, because people feel that energy, right? People buy from people and people feel that kind of desperation. And it's real difficult, especially as you're building relationships, which is really how you tend to sell in the very beginning of your business. They feel that, right? And you feel it, and you feel miserable and you hate your business. And so making sure that you have enough startup capital to allow yourself to be super strategic, give yourself some grace, give yourself some breathing room so that you can really look at your business and build something that's going to be strategic long-term. And you're not making, bad short-term decisions that aren't going to help you long-term just because you're trying to make revenue right now. And you're going to feel a lot better, and you're going to be able to approach your audience from a place of strength and not from a place of fear. And we've all met those people, right? They're like, my friend calls them, the networking weirdos, right? Like the ones who come to those networking events are like, here's my card. I'm looking for 5 new people to buy my blah, blah, blah before the end of the month. Like, okay, like, dude, like, too much, right? Those are the people who don't have enough startup capital to be able to really grow their business in the best way possible. And no one wants to work with those people anyway. So make sure you have enough startup capital. If that means maybe you have to get a little bit of, a part-time job for a little while, or, maybe you borrow some money from your 401k so that you've got a little bit, you give yourself a little bit of breathing room, right? Part of this too is keeping your costs super, super low. You guys all know that. I don't need to tell you that. All right. Number 2 is consult an independent professional to create a biggest bang for the buck marketing and business strategy. I think I'm going to use this as my new tagline, the biggest bang for the buck marketing and business strategy. Let me know in the comments below if you think that's a good one. I promise you, and I have seen this consistently in my business, the people who start with somebody like me or anybody else like me, right? Although I'd love for you to work with me and create a really strategic business and marketing plan from the beginning, end up saving themselves so much more money, because we're able to say, okay, where are you now? Who is the audience that you want to go after, right? And often, we really niche down at the beginning, and then we'll build up and grow later, right? If, depending on what's appropriate. So who's your target audience? What are we going to offer to them? And where can we find that target audience and get you in front of those people with the least possible investments of time and money? What I find happens is that if people haven't worked with a marketing professional to really put together this kind of strategic plan, they end up saying like, oh, I have to advertise in magazines, or I need to do social media, and they hire an agency, or they start doing a lot of social media ads. And again, I cannot tell you, I would say 75% of my clients come to me and say, Literally, I've spent tens of thousands of dollars. I have depleted all of my capital, and I did a bunch of ads or, whatever. I spent $10,000 building a website that nobody goes to. And I haven't gotten a single client from it. So spending a little bit of money working with a professional like me so that you can really target in on what those things are will save you from spending that capital that you don't need to spend to be most strategic. Sometimes the things that seem like they make sense to do at the beginning, they often do make a lot of sense, but they're often things you want to do in, let's say, year 3, year 5, things like social media ads. I'll tell you, like my business makes well over 6 figures and I have never done a social ad. Right? I have built all of my business through organic marketing. What that means is unpaid marketing. You can get super, super far in your business without spending any money, but you really need to know what those things are and have somebody help you to understand exactly what those things are. It's kind of like having a weight loss coach, right? You can lose some weight, or, having a coach helping you to prepare for a marathon, right? If you can do it on your own, but having someone who says, okay, you're going to run these days really helps to make sure that you're being as successful as possible. You're not causing injuries, right? You're not working out when you don't have to. It's very, very similar. So I know that this sounds a little, self-serving, but I believe in this so much that I'm, willing to talk about it right now. Also, I want to point out one other thing. One of the things I said here was consult an independent pro. And what I mean by an independent pro is a professional who does not own a marketing agency. Because if you go to someone who runs an agency, and they're all lovely people, and I'm not saying that it's bad, but they're incented to sell you on buying some products, right? And I actually have gotten to the place where I don't offer any of those services anymore. I do have some partners, and sometimes they do pay me a referral fee. So I'll be honest about that, but it's not a significant, it's not a significant amount that's going to change, my willingness to tell someone the truth about how they should spend their money. And I really encourage you, as you're getting, somebody who helps you to build your business strategy, make sure they're independent. So they don't have a skin in the game on you doing any of the things, right? Because if you talk to someone who runs an agency, they're of course going to tell you that you need to buy their product, right? That's their business and that's their expertise. Having somebody who's a little bit more neutral and independent is really, really good. And again, I've taken myself out of doing all those agency things because I believe that certainly early stage entrepreneurs really need to have this kind of advice on how to build their business organically and get the biggest bang for their buck. And so I've taken that out of myself. So as you're looking for somebody, make sure they're independent. Okay. My third tip is to beta test your product and your messaging and your marketing before you fully invest. So, one of the things that you'll be able to do with whoever your business coach is, whether it's me or somebody else, is say like, okay, here's our hypothesis. Here's the audience, here's the product we're going out with. Here's the messaging. Let's do a test first, right? Let's do a little bit of a test. And that might mean, some social ads, like we're only going to spend a little bit of money, right? We're going to go to our networking meetings. We're going to ask people, hey, can I take you, can I buy you coffee and have you test this messaging for me, right? Because you want to make sure that what you're saying really makes sense to your audience. Because so often we're such experts in our field that it's often hard for us to remember where our customers are coming to us from, right? Like what their mindset is. And so it's important for you to really test your assumptions about what messages are going to work. And the best way to do that is talking to your audience. And so you can either do that by talking or polls, or, you can try, some ads before you say, okay, let's run them and spend whatever, thousands of dollars. Let's spend $100, test them, test 5 different ads and see which ones work. This is what all big companies do, even the most sophisticated ones, right? They will put together a They put together their strategy, they'll put together their creative, right? And their bundling, and then they will do test groups, right? Sometimes they'll bring people in and do focus groups. Sometimes they'll do a small run of an ad, or they'll only go out to a specific market first to see how it works, to work out all the kinks. I highly, highly recommend that you do that in your business, because it'll really teach you a lot. I promise you, whatever message you start with is probably not the one you're going to end with. And this isn't you, has nothing to do with you. It's just a normal part of business. Big companies do this, small companies do this, companies of every size start with a hypothesis on their messaging. They test it, they refine it, then they know now is when you really can start doing more and more marketing that tests that message. So I hope that this was helpful. If you would like to have some help putting together your biggest bang for the buck marketing strategy, I have a couple different options. One is we can work together to put together your whole business strategy, and that's usually takes about a month or so. We'll spend at least 6 hours of in-person time together, and then I spend a lot of time behind the scenes putting together all of the aspects of your marketing and business plan. And then at the end, you get a written plan, and often I'll then continue to work with you afterwards on that. But if you have one particular business thing that you're thinking about right now, you're not quite sure how to make a decision, or you're not quite ready to have somebody help you build your entire strategy, I'm doing something really cool this month where I'm offering I call them a growth hacker, one meeting, a 90-minute meeting, and we can just sit down and just talk through whatever your business challenge might be, right? Like I had a client in recently who is thinking about starting e-commerce for her business. So she came in and said, all right, I'm thinking about doing e-commerce. Like, what would that look like? Why, not like literally the page, but how would I drive people to that page? Does it even make sense for my business based on my product line? Is that what I should be focusing on in my business, right? Or should I be, really working on this other aspect of my business first to get the kind of revenue that I need in order to support a real proper launch of e-commerce? So those are the types of things we can talk about in these 90-minute sessions. They're generally $3.99 for a 90-minute, but I'm offering them for $1.99 this month. So reach out to me. I'm happy to connect with you. This sale, again, is only for May of 2023. But if you reach out to me after that, maybe we'll be able to do it anyway. But send me a note. You can find me at all of these places. My website is dd.marketing. My phone number is there. I never answer my phone. I generally have it on silent because I'm in meetings all day. But you can text me there. It's a great way to get in touch with me. And then here's my email address as well. I hope this was super helpful. I do these free trainings every single Thursday at noon Eastern Standard Time, unless something else is going on. So, but I would love your feedback on topics that you would like for me to cover. And of course, I'd love some comments below. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel where all of these live, so you can go back and watch them at any time. And again, loved presenting for you. I hope this was helpful. Excited to hear your feedback. Have a great day.